Well, we have to close that gap, and our revenue projections were wrong, and you know, we kind of got a whale of a surprise. We knew we had tapped into the fund balance pretty much to depleting it, and we are on a very determined and I think practical course to getting to where we need to go. We're in the process of literally prioritizing, of examining and prioritizing every program, every service that the city provides. We are in the process, we've begun talking to our employee groups on some remedies that will require their participation and approval. And those meetings have been very productive. The employees are responding appropriately to the, you know, to the dimension of the problem. And you know, part of it is it's going to be the delivery of services. It's going to be in terms of how, and it's going to be in terms of what those services are. And there are going to have to be some really tough decisions made. You know, part of this is going to be, what is local government supposed to provide for folks? If there's a silver lining, and there is, the city is sort of doing what Schwarzenegger believes the state is not. We're not going to trick our way into a one-time balanced budget that gets us a few months of comfort, and then we have to embark on balancing the next one, and we don't expect that to be any more fun. We have already embarked on a number of structural changes in the way that we do budgeting, both from a policy standpoint, and of course the policies then drive the structure of what we do. And we've enlisted the assistance of GFOA, which we did a couple of weeks ago, and so we've got a parallel thing. We're finding where we're going to close that revenue gap and balance the budget, but we're also addressing the structural problems that we have. And I think that the result over 2 years, if we will get through this tough time, I think that future councils are going to have a much easier time of budgeting in general and of dealing with budget crises in particular because of what we end up with. We're learning a lot about our organization, and this is the culmination of generations of the same type of thinking and the same type of budgeting. And it's not a blame statement, it just is what it is. We're in a perfect storm now. We're going to deal with it now. And you know, there's not going to be any fun to it, but we will get there, I'm very confident. Settlement was absolutely the right thing to do. The general plan was the right thing to do. What made the general plan difficult, from I think from a marketing standpoint, if you want to look at it that way, and I said this early on because I could see what was happening. There were two parts to the general plan. Now, had I been there at the beginning, I might not have undertaken such a big bite. Going 2035 is a significant matter when you factor in all of the infrastructure and the cost that you're going to have to project. But I didn't have anything to do with that, so here goes the process. We end up with a map that appears to entitle sprawl, continued sprawl. And if you look at what we did between 1990 and now, you'd have to say that's a legitimate concern. But if you think about the fact that we needed to grow the boundaries big enough to accommodate growth that we really are certain is coming, the map is only a problem if you don't have good policies. And the reason that I supported the general plan and was actually very pleased with it was because the general plan policy document did everything that the 1990 document did not. And primarily, and this is, we should have a parade for doing something like this, but we don't spend a lot of time rejoicing about doing a good thing. That all development will pay for itself, is not only a statement, because the similar statement was in the 1990 plan, but we have the mechanisms and we have the leverage to make it actually happen, and we are. When Mariposa Lakes went before the Planning Commission, and I'm aware of the project, I've done some reconnaissance, but it's not before me yet. But one of the planning commissioners asked, will this development pay for itself? The answer was an unqualified yes. The development agreement language that I'm seeing and that I'm hearing about being developed is very specific. These developments will pay, there will be no gap between what the development covers, the city will not be left holding the bag, and the city decides. It's a profound, dramatic change. Then when you take the science of what is required for the developments additionally, I'll say it this way, if the development between 1990 and the early 2000s had been done in accordance with this general plan, we would not have the problems that we have now. People are afraid development's going to start too soon. It won't start too soon. They won't be able to because it won't pencil out. It just isn't going to work. It isn't going to be like the wave of bedroom communities that we built. So the problem was that no and slow growthers tended to hate the map. The developers tended really not to like the policy document. So here comes the Attorney General. His first meeting was raucous and negative, as he took his finger and said, what's this, what's this, what's this, pointing to the map. The map was his issue when things started. As Gordon Palmer, and this being one of his strengths, unwinding difficult situations that require some diplomacy, he started to realize that the AG's interests were really in greenhouse gases, infill, and transit and reducing vehicular trips, and all of that was already in the plan. So at that point it became a matter of, well, let's see what we can arrive at here, because what the AG really wanted us to do was he wanted to make sure that we had a calendar for legislating those things out of the plan and into reality. And so when the settlement agreement came forward, number one, it didn't do anything in terms of today as opposed to last Tuesday. Nothing is different in the world, except that we made a commitment to write ordinances and general plan amendments that actually bring the general plan to life. That's what we always intended to do. And of course the great irony is that some of the development interests who very strongly supported the general plan are very strongly opposing implementing, apparently, the general plan. And the irony of that isn't lost on anybody, I don't think, but I think that the council did absolutely the right thing. Well, it's a big problem, and we've not handled it well on our end, candidly, and I have to be a little bit discreet here in terms of talking about negotiations, but I think that we could have done some things better at an earlier time. But we are where we are. The problem is that the council is going to have to balance its perhaps a commitment, a contractual commitment that it made with its fiduciary responsibility to maintain solvency in the city, and I think that I think we're going to have to really get eyeball to eyeball with SPOA and figure this out. I don't see how there's more money in the budget for them at this time. I want there to be, but numbers are numbers.